Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's Monday, and that means it's time for the Wrestling Inc. Monday Night Raw after show. And have we got a show for you? We've got the undefeated phenomenon, Maxine Dupree. We've got Judgment Day almost cashing in the briefcase, and we even have some incredible video packages to highlight what's coming up at SummerSlam. But before we get into all of those things, let's introduce the crew. I'm Jack Farmer, being joined by none other than the Spar with LaBar champion, Justin LaBar himself, and the legendary, I say HOF bound, Hall of Fame bound referee, Jimmy Korderas. Fellas, Justin, how are you today?
I'm doing solid. Doing solid. Another podcast we're getting ready to venture out to. SummerSlam's upon us. My Baltimore Orioles beat the Toronto Blue Jays tonight in thrilling fashion. It's Old Bay on everything.
Good times all around. Jimmy, how about yourself?
Other than the baseball stats that Justin threw out there, the Orioles beating the Jays, I'm actually pretty good. We had a good day up here, and looking forward to talking our show tonight.
Yeah, this was I have my thoughts on tonight's episode. We'll break it all down. But before we do, again, thank you to everyone who's with us. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, copy the link, throw it into social media. And as Zuka says, lurkers unite. Join us in the chat. Say how you felt about the show. Say how you felt about what we're saying. Why don't you? But let's get into some quick news that's happening around the wrestling world. Big news. PW Insider reports that Collision will tape after Dynamite on August 23rd in Duluth. The double taping is being done due to most of AEW's personnel traveling to the UK for All In following the Wednesday night shows. So obviously that's logistically the best way to do it. But Justin, this is interesting news because there's been a lot of ink spilt about separate rosters that is going to get thrown out the window apparently on August 23rd.
Yeah, in theory, we'll see how they manage it, of who's on what show, of who's on the show, and what have you. Obviously, there's times, especially when you're going to a different continent, you have to make these type of scheduling changes. I would just be weary of the company for any purpose of cost cutting or anything to ever move in the direction of doing too much taping at once. Because I really think it exhausts the audience, especially when you throw the type of action that AEW throws out there. It's just a lot to digest. So hopefully this is, again, just like just the situation for that particular week. I just hope that they would not even think about trying to get into that situation, let alone, Jack, the whatever drama you're trying to avoid in the locker room by combining rosters.
Yeah, Jimmy, you've obviously been at a lot of wrestling tapings in your time, and I feel like on paper it's easy to sell a ticket to a long show because you get to talk about all these great matches, but they get kind of tough when you start getting to hours 4 and 5 and whatnot.
That's the thing. It sounds like, we're going to get a great value for our dollar because we're going to get so much wrestling in one night. But like Justin said, you can only be as vibrant and lively for so long. And yes, certain stories and angles, whatever you want to call it, and certain individual characters generate a response. And the AEW crowd is usually very lively. So I don't know, sitting through, like you said, both a Dynamite and a Collision taping and maybe some other stuff too, stuff for their web shows.
Yeah.
It could be a very, very long night for those in Duluth. Let's put it that way.
And I don't envy whoever has to go on last, whoever's the last TV match that gets taped in front of that audience. I do not envy them because, again, based upon the styles and the pace that you usually see, what can you do at that point that has not been seen by that audience within the last few hours? I mean, put your body on the line for a bump on the apron. I don't think so because it was probably already done at least twice earlier.
You know what? That's funny. You said, sorry to cut you off there, Jack, but it's funny you said that, Justin, because now that you said it, if there's one, little critique that I have with their shows is they do tend to repeat a lot of situations in AEW on one show. So to do it over 4 hours or 5 hours or whatever, like Justin said, you will see a lot of the same thing. Let's put it that way.
Tut Graph, you're getting a free shout out for this one. Says, hey, you win some, Duluth some.
Waka waka.
That's a good one. I appreciate that one, Tuck. But speaking of All In, also big news per WrestleNomics, All In will air on pay-per-view with DirecTV and In Demand, confirming carriage of All In will air on each respective service. The card will air on DirecTV's channel 106, with In Demand stating that the event will be available for $49.99. And then it goes on to some more details for individual countries. But I mean, Jimmy, this has been very weird for a lot of people because it's potentially, I haven't been up to date on the ticket sales, but I guess it's potentially the biggest selling wrestling event ever. And we're getting pretty close. And we didn't know anything about this show until now, which is how to watch it. That seems odd to me.
No, it does seem odd. And there was a discussion on another program by a former two-time Hall of Fame, not former two-time Hall of Famer, but former WWE champion and world champion in another organization. Let's just say Bully Ray, Bubba, saying that if it was him, he would have done exactly what they're doing because they sold tickets without announcing a single match. And yes, I get it. This is their, if I'm not mistaken, please correct me if I'm wrong. This is their first time going over there for AEW, is it not? So yes, the interest is there and they've already got that audience. So I understand that. But at the same time, I think you need to, if you want people to invest in buying the pay-per-view and spending $49.99, you have to at least announce something for the crowd other than that hardcore, diehard AEW fan who's going to buy it anyways, regardless of what they do. You know what I mean? If you want to attract more of an audience, give them something, because there are probably some people who are sitting on the fence going, hey, that sounds very interesting, but what are they doing?
Well, Justin, I love what Jimmy just said, because it now makes me think of the fact that, real quick, by the way, Andrew Taylor, watching live from New York on holiday from Fife, Scotland. So very cool. Thank you very much, Andrew. But Justin, this is something we've talked about before. When you don't show someone something, their imagination could be better than the real thing. And this is one of those things where people are thinking of what dream card could happen, where if they say, by the way, the main event's going to be MJF versus Adam Cole, then now people go, do I really want to see that? Or, it is maybe a good marketing strategy.
Well, if they intended for the show to just be a spectacular live event, and being the fact that they sold the amount of tickets they have sold up to this point, I would have no problem with them flying over there and not making public any matches. It's almost like 60,000 people buying tickets to a rock concert, some legendary bands coming back out for a reunion tour, something like that. And you go and you don't know what set list they're going to play. You don't know if you're going to get all the hits you want. You don't know if they're going to dig deep in the catalog. And it's kind of like it's there but you've already got the people's tickets. You've already got them sold, so they're hooked. So you can decide to set list of whatever you want. You don't have to tell them months out, here's the 20 songs we're going to do. But they're doing it on pay-per-view. Okay, this is connected to their television shows that they do now several times a week. So yeah, if you have to start to announce, you don't have to announce the entire card. I'm okay with leaving a little bit of mystery, but you have to at least announce the top half of the card. Your mains and your semi-mains. I just otherwise how do you? I mean. I don't think your audience is still big enough, even in the U.S. or around the world, that you can rely on them to pay $50 off of sheer mystery. I just don't think you can. You're not that. I don't even think that's a wise move for WWE to do, and they've been around for 70 years. So they have, now that they have the viewing options out there, they got to start. I would hope that this Wednesday. Jimmy and I at this time are talking about some of the first announced official matches signed.
I do think to your point as well, Justin, even if it's not, to me anyways, not announced, but pretty clear, like we'll talk about Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus wasn't technically announced until today, but we've known this is where they're going for some time. Like we should, even if it's not official, we should be like, yeah, this is probably happening at All In at some point very soon. Sooner rather than later, I would think. because then you got All Out right after that. You got to build to that one too, you know. So
and then 3 weeks after that, they go back to their Arthur Ashe Stadium show. I mean, it's going to be a real test to their futility.
Yeah, we'll see. Some sad news we got to get into though. Unfortunately, is Pee Wee Herman passed away today. Also, Adrian Street passed away too. Of course, Adrian Street, a wrestling legend, died at 82, and Pee Wee Herman, Paul Reubens, his real name, but I always knew him as Pee Wee, so I call him Pee Wee. Passed away at age 70. Very sad to hear. Jimmy, were you there when Pee Wee and The Rock did their thing?
No.
Was that before or after your time? I'm terrible with remembering when in time things happened.
Yeah, me too. And I believe it was after I was I had departed from there. And the great thing was, Paul Reubens, aka Pee Wee Herman, was a great wrestling fan. Mm-hmm. And he stayed in touch with a lot of the talent. For example, like Edge, you saw he tweeted today. It's a tough one when you lose a not only a fan like that, but a guy who, was such a great asset because he brought entertainment to the world of pro wrestling, which he was a big fan of. And you mentioned Adrian Street as well, which is a sad passing. And he was a trailblazer because he kind of broke down barriers and influenced future talent that came after him to explore and expand characters and not be afraid to, take it in a different direction. So he was a trailblazer, and it's again a sad day to mourn two tragic passings.
Yeah, I know Adrian Street. In full transparency, I didn't really get to follow I didn't know his career the way like I would know someone I grew up watching necessarily, but I know of him because he's been talked about so much. Like was he at Clash of the Castle? He was at a recent show, I know, like in the crowd, and I've known of him through people talking about how influential he was. And of course, Pee Wee. My childhood kind of lined up with his with when he was blowing up pretty well. So of course, he was a big part of my childhood. They showed a funny. Someone shared a funny clip from when he was in Buffy the Vampire Slayer as a vampire getting stabbed, and it was fantastic. But Justin, any comments on either of these two passings?
Yeah, I mean, obviously sad. Paul Reubens, Pee Wee Herman, obviously, the little bit of WWE crossover he did in the past when he was on Raw, and as Jimmy said, a lot of pro wrestlers actually can Edge, as Jimmy tweeted, Corey Graves tweeted out there. A good friend of mine, a former LaBar family member, RJ City. RJ had a real touching treat. Him and David Arquette both interacted with Paul a lot. So yes, it sounds, and there's a lot of stories going around. Like if you go on social media and type in his name, a lot of stories going around of people, maybe production assistants on shows, or just literally people just off the street who met Paul and just are gushing about how, even to some, invited him to his house. Like he just for somebody who was as famous as he was, pretty down to earth. So cool to read those stories. And then you have Adrian Street, kind of like you, Jack. I put pretty sure I've seen a lot of wrestling matches in my life. I don't think I've ever watched a full belt-to-belt match of his. I have seen photos of his. I do know I've heard people talk about him on podcast interviews. I know, as Jimmy talked about, without he's in that line with like the Gorgeous Georges, and without an Adrian Street, you don't get an Adrian Adonis, you don't get a Gold Dust, you don't get a Velveteen Dream, you don't get any characters that are pushing the envelope and daring to break out of the more traditional tropes and stereotypes of what a male pro wrestler has to be and should look like and talk like and dress like. So I don't remember if he was at Clash of the Castle, but he is Welsh, so they were in Cardiff, Wales. So that would, if he was, that would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think at some show recently he was one of those and in the crowd, he was just in the crowd waving, I think, and clapping, one of those deals, if I remember right. Someone in the chat, if I'm right or wrong, let me know.
And how about this fun fact? I didn't know this until I went to his Wikipedia earlier today. I have to assume it's right. It is. There is sourcing to it, but I guess he after his in-ring career, he was living in Florida in the States, and he had a business designing and selling pro wrestling gear for wrestlers. And he actually, I guess the most famous, apparently, Jimmy's not a seven. Jimmy, maybe you know the story here. I guess it says here he created the Dude Love gear that Mick Foley wore when Dude Love first debuted in WWE and feuded with Stone Cold in '98. So that's kind of a little fun fact I didn't know.
Yeah. Oh, very cool. Well, in I guess to wrap it up, a fun little story I'll always remember about Pee Wee is I said my age lines up when I was a kid. He was on TV, and my dad hated that show. My dad, it just annoyed him. And I remember one time he was like, he told me, he's like, "Oh, I hate when you watch this show," and I go, "Oh, really?" And I tried to do my best Pee Wee Herman, and I've never been looked at with more disappointment in my entire life. It was a great little moment for me personally. That my dad probably has tried to bury that now, but for me, it was a funny moment. As we move on,
your dad's just trying to get a few more hours of sleep, and he's got to hear,
Then he peeks his head out the door and he sees the dance.
It's baby, I say it. All of our dads hated that show. It was for kids. I don't think, but I could, not for dads. We have a let's get into the show. Before we do, again though, everyone like, comment, share, subscribe, 5-star reviews. We got a couple of the 5-star reviews recently, and I'm a bad host. I was going to pull them up and read them off, but I forgot to do that. So I will be doing that next week. And if you want your 5-star review read, put it up there now. I'll read them all next week. And let everyone know, because I thought they were very nice. But I only read the ones with 5 stars. Of course, as we get into the show, we got a couple super chats first. Roger Carson, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't see a message in there, so if you wanted to say anything, just throw it in there in the chat, and I'll make sure to read it off for you. But also, Shalbowski says, "My last name is Herman, and my mom refused to allow us to watch the show. Kids at school always made fun of me, though."
Wow.
That was a good times. But in any case, as we continue on here, we get into the show, and we start with I forgot the roll call real quick. Chris Bricks, Danny Cochran, Ricky Zaldivar, Corey St. Floyd, that's a new name. Of course, Roger Carson, Justin, LaBar, Corey Pride, Montez Tyndall, Baby Ice, and a few Ball Jeezy. We've got some new names in here. This is fun to see. Flobo Boyce, my old pal, Flobo Boyce. Good to see you all. Dream Realm, Lurkin, Huffman, Dylan, Best in the Smokers World. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let's get into the show. Logan Paul comes out and says he's going to beat Ricochet in the most viral match in WWE history. Ricochet says last week he was on Logan's stream. This week he's in Logan's head. Logan Paul says he's going to put on a show and make Samantha Irvin say his name at WrestleMania. Justin, I felt like this was the best promo these two have had.
I agree. There's a lot I liked about this. Logan was getting the heat as you want him to. Ricochet's music cuts him off. People popped. It was a legitimate pop at his music, and then they're chanting Ricochet's name. As you said, Ricochet, he's spoken a little bit more sound bites tonight, and he sounded confident when doing so, more so than his previous weeks. So I like that. I like them showing the clip in the Rumble, reminding people. I mean, the Rumble was 7 months ago, reminding people of that moment, or showing people for the first time maybe, so you can kind of know here's the kind of spots that they're aiming to have. Here's the value of why you're tuned into this match and what you want to see. And then adding the girlfriend line in there, that is Ricochet's real life girlfriend or fiance, and so it gave it a personal element. So now we're not just arguing over this match being a viral clip, that now there's like a little bit of a personal matter to it. So I like that. I will say that you can tell we're in tamer times. If this was the Attitude Era, rather than Logan Paul saying, she'll be announcing me as the winner, he would have said something like, "I'll be in your girl's mouth," or something like that. I really thought that's the direction he went, and then he held up and kind of took it the PG route. So probably okay. But I thought they checked a lot of positive boxes of things accomplished here.
Yeah, you're right, Justin. I was thinking they were going the same way, but yeah, that's definitely a bygone era, an attitude bygone era. But Jimmy, something they repeated a couple times tonight, even in the backstage segment later on when Logan Paul was walking around, saying this is going to be the most viral match in WWE history. Do you think that they're just saying that to, because they know there's going to be a lot of big moments, or do you think they've got something up their sleeve specifically that's going to go viral?
I think it's a little bit of both, especially because, like you guys said, like he said, how many times tonight, something viral. And we know Logan Paul has a tremendous amount of followers. He is, out there. And this is a big opportunity for Ricochet. Like it or not, and I know people are not happy with Logan Paul, especially wrestling fans, kind of like he's invading our world. And that's why he's getting all this heat. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that the wrestling fans are saying, here's an outsider coming into our world, thinks he can dominate and stuff like that. But this is an opportunity for Ricochet to get noticed, regardless of whether he wins or loses. It doesn't matter, And as far as the viral thing goes, there is an opportunity that this could be, if not the most viral thing that WWE has done in a long time, close to it, because he does have that following.
Yeah. It's
yeah.
Oh,
go good.
No. I mean, I was going to say, these two guys both have big moves. But it's going to be very tough for them to pass up things like the jump off the top rope onto Roman Reigns while live streaming. I think that's going to be a very tough thing to beat. And I know that because they've said this so many times, people are going to check the numbers. So I feel like they got to have something planned that they think is going to really blow up social media.
So let me grab the pencil again for a second. Let me pitch this. We've seen Logan Paul hit record and, as you said, do the high spot. We've seen him have high spot moments with Ricochet. Cue the Rumble tape. What if WWE would have to get it cleared with Peacock, but if they wanted to truly be able to tout the most viral match ever, what if Logan Paul comes to the ring with his cell phone as he normally does, and they somehow prop it up in the corner? AEW has this. They prop his phone. What if he live streams his entire match out on his socials, to his YouTube, to all of his platforms? If WWE and Peacock can get the okay, and this match, all of a sudden, if you're a subscriber, if you're one of the millions of subscribers to Paul's Instagram, to his YouTube, to his Twitter, across all the socials, and all of a sudden that notification bell goes off. Logan Paul is live in the ring with Ricochet, and they stream the 10-minute match, because now they can tout whatever numbers they tout on Peacock, and then they can add up all the numbers from his social, and they can truly then run that stat of that's how many people watch this match.
Oh, that is a great idea.
Awesome.
I think that is a phenomenal idea, because he's going to get so many views, just people tune in. And that's exactly what you want with Logan Paul. If you want the eyeballs of his audience, put your show on in front of his audience.
And there's a, obviously, all of us were watching, hopefully on our big screens on Peacock. But if all of a sudden I saw on social that was happening, I would go find one of Logan Paul. I don't follow him on anything except for Twitter, I don't think. I would go find his socials also for the fact of just watching, just having an entire alternate view of the match, just from like a ringside post camera or something like that. And obviously, wherever they position the camera is going to be key to whatever the biggest high spot is. It's going to be somehow framed. I don't know. I've been thinking all night, like, how can they viral? How can they top? How can they top it and not? And hopefully not have a botch, not have what happened at Money in the Bank, which they kind of tried to parlay into storyline. And I'm thinking, the hell with trying to make one spot go viral, live stream an entire match.
Wow.
Especially because anyone who is going to watch the show already has Peacock and is watching it anyway. So it's not like they're really losing viewers with this. If it was still the pay-per-view model, you might say, oh, you're giving it away for free, you're cheating some people, but on Peacock, it's not really that way. You didn't really cheat anybody if you give away one match, if that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. It makes absolute great sense. And that's a great idea, Justin. I hate to admit it, but I wish I had thought of that.
Well, Huffman saying, LaBar, if Dixie Carter hired you back in the day, then TNA may be bigger than WWE these days.
I don't know about that. I appreciate the compliment, but
I'm still, I'm going to toot the horn for Jimmy to go in the Hall of Fame and for LaBar to get the pencil. That's what we're going to do here. You guys, you're going to the moon, as someone would say.
They'll give me the crayon. I'll get to just play around with the crayon. They'll give me the pencil to help write Jimmy's Hall of Fame speech. That's as much.
I'll take that.
I was gonna say they'll give you the crayon because your ideas are so colorful. That's why you need some crayons. We got this is kind of the biggest chunk of the show here was a little back and forth between two groups, but we're going to start with Ludwig Kaiser versus Matt Riddle. And it starts with Gunther being disappointed in Kaiser for what happened last week. So tonight he has to make it up in a match with Riddle, and Kaiser gets the win in what is one of the match of the night contenders until a little bit later, as we'll talk about, in my opinion anyways, but gets a great win over Matt Riddle and is back in the good graces of Gunther. Jimmy, I said this on X is what we're calling it now. I said it on X. Okay. Ludwig is a sneaky match of the night machine. Like, we don't talk about it. I mean, we all know he's great, but like every match he has is kind of in that conversation, it seems, every week.
Yeah, and absolutely. And what I loved about the match too was it tells a great story. It built to the finish. And I know a lot of people are going to say, well, it was kind of a clean win, considering there was some interference a little bit along the way with the heels, and there was some heel tactics. But technically the win itself was fairly clean. So it got him over big time. And of course, in the story sense, Gunther is very happy with him now. He's in his good graces again. But they told a heck of a story, and the crowd was buying into it. They came along, and they slowly got louder and louder as the match progressed. They were buying into all the false finishes, and that's what you want. You want people to bite, because a lot of times you go into a match, a lot of hardcore fans are like, yeah, I don't see so-and-so winning, so they don't buy into some of the false finishes because you don't think someone's going to win. They were buying into the false finishes for both guys.
Yeah, Justin, we've talked about this before, but Kaiser is really kind of what you want to happen with a group, is finding a way to stand out on his own within this group. Yeah,
I've said it before, and tonight further. He's not just a henchman. Yeah, he's number two. He's, clearly Gunther is in charge, but he's getting more and more credible, and then the way he walks, the way he speaks, he's starting to kind of carve out a little identity for himself. So again, he's not just henchman number two. A clean win against a fan favorite like Riddle, that's a big deal. And as Jimmy said, it's technically clean, so that's a big deal. So I don't know what the long play is here. I don't think it's to break. Well, maybe Vinci gets who knows, but I think it's to keep Kaiser aligned with Gunther for a little bit longer, for a while. But there's certainly, again, he's not just blending in the background. So good for him.
Yeah, I always think when you have a group like this, the goal should be that once it breaks up, because all groups eventually break up, that once they break up, everyone within it should be able to move on bigger than they were before. Right. And if Imperium, now I love Imperium, I don't want him to go anywhere, but if they broke up today, Kaiser's set. I think he's fine. I could see him doing just fine on his own outside of this. But Vinci, I feel like we haven't had a chance to see him as much and see what he can do. I know in the ring, I think he's fantastic, but yeah, I haven't really heard him cut promos, and that would be the thing that worries me about old Gio. I call him Gio because we're close.
Okay.
I don't know. But something that may not seem related, but will be related for all of us who have seen the show tonight. Maxine Dupree has a match with Valhalla. It was a fun little match with some outside shenanigans, but Maxine Dupree gets the win. Jimmy Korderas. Is Maxine Dupree the next Goldberg? Undefeated.
Oh,
Dupree.
I do. Yeah.
The next Jade Cargill. I mean,
oh my goodness. You know what? Good for her for getting the win, but at the same time, it wasn't smooth, for lack of a better. She had some issues. There were a little bit of. I don't think she's quite ready in ring. There were a lot of stuff that I saw that I just felt like. I'm not saying it has to be smooth as silk, but at the same time, you have to look like you've been in there before.
Well, yeah, and that is going to lead me to my question for you, Justin, is one, I don't know how many matches Maxine has actually had. I know they were saying this was her first match, but I don't really know what they've done off, at house shows or whatever. But Max, even in character, she's never done this before. I think in the match, it looks like she's clearly not a veteran. Did this kind of, and I hate using this word, bury Valhalla a little bit?
No, no, it didn't. And I don't think it buried her. No. Valhalla is a good choice to put her in there with. I mean, she is a veteran. Like Jimmy said, this was not smooth, especially towards the beginning. They settled in a little bit, but what they did was they needed, I have to imagine the referee or somebody was screaming to them eventually, slow down. You guys are, there was that particularly that sequence of reverse Irish whips. And it looked like Maxine might have got her arm yanked out of miscommunication. It was clunky. I mean, in the story, Maxine winning's the right thing for what the story's been, after the outside interference and this and that. But like Jimmy said, I don't know. She certainly has taken to the entertainment side of this. She's got the moneymaker here. She's doing the things with Gable and with Otis. So I mean, she's doing those things, and those things sometimes can be harder to teach. So that's a good sign. But yeah, I would be very cautious of how much more on TV we put her in singles matches. Mixed tags, fine. If you can dress some things up, gimmick some things up. But I would tread lightly on the singles matches until you can get her some more reps on non-TV shows, Performance Center, both. But yeah, I mean, but in the story, it made sense that she wins. I get it, and so we'll see.
Yeah, I know, and I agree with that. But I got to ask the hard-hitting questions, Justin. Just a side question, Jimmy, as we're talking about this, when there is a wrestler who's new and it's their first match, or they're very early in their career and they're on a stage like that, as a referee, is there anything you can really do, or is it really kind of just between the wrestlers to try to make it work at that point?
You can help communicate, that's for sure, because especially being on TV, if you're getting messages in your IFB saying, hey, tell them to relax, tell them to calm down, take it easy, take it slow, that sort of thing, like Justin said. And also relay messages from the other talent, because, can't just walk over and say, hey, grab my arm.
Right.
The referee's the source of communication back and forth. We're the string that goes between the two cans, so to speak. It's saying, hey, go over there and tell them to grab a hold.
Right. I love it. That's a great analogy for that. But this is where the two seemingly unconnected stories intersect.
Jimmy, that should be your new bio. 20 plus years as a string in between two cans.
Okay. Hold on. Let me write that down.
That's the first line of your Hall of Fame speech, Jimmy.
There you go.
See, there you go. We're writing the speech as we go here on the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
God, good stuff so far today, guys. We got Imperium runs into Alpha Academy backstage, and by the way, shout out to Denise Salcedo, who posted a picture of this and said Oppenheimer and Barbie running into each other at the movie theater. But Imperium and Alpha Academy run into each other, and it's a matchup a lot of people have been waiting for, to be quite honest. They get a 5-minute challenge between Gable and Gunther. Gable lasts the 5 minutes, so he gets the win. But then Gunther says, we're going to continue it, and Gunther eventually gets the win before saying, get used to it, while standing on a announce table. Justin, this match to me, I felt like watching this match now to me makes it feel like, I hate using the word has to, but like, I feel like Gable has to be the guy to beat Gunther. I feel like it just feels right. And I don't want to look past Drew McIntyre and SummerSlam, but I don't know. Something about this just felt like this is the way it should go. What say you? Yeah,
no, this was a big deal. First off, I thought, okay, clever. When they did the whole gimmick of you can't last 5 minutes, I'm like, well, that's great. Because first off, you could have Gunther and Gable. I mean, they could go out there and put on a 30-minute match if you asked them to on TV or pay-per-view or premium live event, excuse me. So I thought, okay, limiting them to 5 minutes is great. And then when they decided to extend them, I'm like, well, I guess, again, they can certainly fill the time and it's going to be entertaining. But what I liked about it was, as commentary was even saying, like, does this count is this the first loss that Gunther's had and whatever the time is? So it felt like Chad Gable got one over on him, but still did not technically pin or submit Gunther, and Gunther still stands tall. He's still the champion going into the SummerSlam. But it really, again, it did something for Gable. It helped, I think, we've been talking about Gable. he's so good. You know, he's in all these entertaining things with Otis and Maxine, but like certainly he could go out and elevate and be something in a singles run. So yeah, I don't know, Jack, if I go as far as say this obligates them to book him as the guy that dethrones Gunther whenever that is. I'd have no problem if it is him. I don't know if that's what this sets up, but this certainly felt like a big moment on TV tonight to say, hey, WWE Universe, Chad Gable's a big deal, and if you haven't already, you need to be paying attention to him, because he just took Gunther to a limit that we hadn't really seen otherwise, really. So, yeah, I'm here for what's next. Put it that way.
Shabowski says in the chat with a super chat, thank you, Shabowski. Dragunov needs to be the guy to beat Gunther so the world can see how great their NXT match of the year battles were. Yeah, anyone who hasn't seen their NXT UK match was awesome. Of course, their NXT match was great as well. Jimmy, I'm gonna first off, I'm gonna give you an option. You got four options here.
Okay,
you're the one to make the decision on who beats Gunther.
Ooh.
It's gonna be Chad Gable. It's going to be Drew McIntyre. It's going to be Dragunov, as Shabowski says, or you can take the field. Anyone but those three.
Anyone but those three. You know, obviously Drew looks like a good candidate, but extending the title reign, the IC title reign of Gunther, she got me saying Dragunov, is the right move at this time, I believe. You know, and you know, you talk about Dragunov. Yes, there is a history there, but at the same time, on the main roster, for him to be the first person to beat Gunther, I don't know if that's the right call at this time. I like the idea of Chad Gable eventually, because, you know, Chad Gable could keep rubbing it in his face. You know what? You said you can do this. You said you can do this. And I think, you know, we talk about getting over without going over. And I've been a big fan of Chad Gable's for a long time. Mm-hmm. And saying that this guy has the potential to be a huge single star. And he doesn't have to break away from Alpha Academy to be the Intercontinental Champion, but down the road, if he's the one to dethrone, I would be more than happy with that.
Yeah, Jack, if you said, like, if you're Triple H and you're in the booking meeting, if you said we got to dethrone Gunther by September, whatever, because we need him to be a guy to work now in the world title picture with Seth Rollins, assuming Rollins is still champion. So if you tell me that, based upon what you just said, I go Gable, because Drew doesn't really need it. No disrespect to Dragunov, but like Gable's, what have you done for me lately? Gable's been around. He's paid some dues. He's done everything they've asked him. He's been heel. He's been babyface. He's been serious. He's been comedy. He's been excellent tag team wrestler. So I feel like, it would go with him. And for all the things we just said and what Jimmy just said about, how we just saw Gable tonight. If there's no timetable, if you're just going to continue to run, if you're going to if you want Gunther to hold it to at least Mania next year and you want to make it a really, really big deal, then yeah, I don't think it has to be Gable. I think you can just wait and see what does your roster look like come Road to Mania. What who could benefit from it, who's deserving. But yeah, if you have a certain pit stop where you got to get the title off of Gunther, I think Gable's a guy right now.
I would love to see Gable do it just because I think that he's so good. I'd love to see him show that he can be serious. And I think there's only one way to beat Gunther, and that's serious. But last question on this, Jimmy, is in your experience working at WWE and the things you've heard and seen there, Gunther's almost about ready to pass that mark to be the longest reigning of all time, Intercontinental Champion. Is that something that people who make these decisions actually care about, or is that more of a fan thing? Like, do you think the people who are in control are like, no, we want him to break the record, or is that just kind of a coincidence that we're potentially breaking the record?
If they want someone to break the record, it's because they see value in it. It's not because, hey, we like this guy, so we want him to be the record holder. If they see value in it, like they're doing right now, going off the board a little bit here with Roman Reigns and his long title reign right now, they see money in it. There's value in it. It is, as a lot of people say, one of the best storylines going in wrestling right now. With Gunther maybe trying to, piggyback on that formula a little bit and go in a little bit of a different direction, but again, have a long title reign. Maybe it gets close and it gets taken away from him. Who knows? But WWE doesn't do it just for the sake of, we like this guy, so we're going to have him break so-and-so's record. If they see value in it, they will do it.
Right.
Well, and what Gunther's done has been a task they've been chasing for the last 20 years, which is they've reestablished the IC title as a big deal. Like, you could have Gunther and the IC title main event, a premium live event, with the right story building up to it, given the historic run he's on. They've spent how many manias in a row did we have somewhere here in this millennium where the IC title wasn't even on the show? Like, they have finally done what got lost in the shuffle, especially after they acquired WCW, and we had brand splits, and we had 2 mid-card titles of the US and IC. Like, they became lost in the shuffle. We were finally going back to 90s prominence of that IC title.
Yeah, I mean, right now I feel like winning that title is bigger than winning the world title. Not the universal title, but the one Seth Rollins has. I feel like right now, if you beat Gunther, it's a bigger deal than beating Seth Rollins, personally. But that may change after some time, but we'll see. We've got a couple of Cody versus Brock moments. First, we get a hype video that was awesome. Another banger of a hype video by WWE. But then Brock comes out and says it's fight week, and that means he's getting paid, which is pretty cool. Cody comes out and they shake hands, and then Brock beats the crap out of Cody Rhodes. Jimmy, this is where the show for me started to feel like the week of a PLE, and we're kind of just filling the time to get to the show.
But it was also getting to a position where now you got to see back in the day, the beating that Brock laid on Cody automatically meant that Cody was winning at SummerSlam. That was kind of like the formula. Nowadays, it's not so much written in stone, but there is some doubt there. They told a bit of a story there. It was interesting that Brock came out, in his jeans and vest and looking like Brock does with his, with his hat. And Cody came out in his gear. Mr. Suit came out in his gear looking to fight. And he was the guy who technically instigated the fight, but at the same time got his butt kicked. So they did make it interesting to see what happens this weekend. That's for sure.
Justin, I liked everything that happened. Don't get me wrong, but I just feel like we've seen it a few times already. But I want your thoughts on the segments here, but also this is I'm going to have Jack's hot take of the night. They say it's one of the main events at SummerSlam. There's only one main event. It's the last match. Can we quit calling every match a main event? There's one main event. It's the one that goes on last. If they're all main events, none of them are main events.
I sometimes agree with that, but it's not a new thing. It's not new to have an event where you say we have a double main event. A triple main event starts to get off the rails, but I agree. Whatever goes on last is clearly priority number one. So I'll agree with that. If Brock and Cody are not last, they were not the top priority main event. they were the semi-main, or they were the whatever.
If they're the third match on the show, then it's clearly not. But again, in the last 10 years, Mania's debunked that. We've seen sometimes some of the biggest matches they put out there first, and I always say this if you give me the pencil, the last match is the most important match on a big show. The last match is the most important match. The first match is the next most important match. That's how you get things started. So I don't believe in the once upon a time, maybe in territory days and old school wrestling, whatever. There was if you're out first, you're the curtain jerker or whatever. But no, to me, I always view the worst spot to be in is the second match. That's the one that's like, we're bringing everybody back down and whatever. So whatever. Video package good. I like Cody coming out serious. He didn't stop to do the whoa. The pyro just went. It kind of looked like a badass. He was walking into the war zone with pyro going off. So I liked all that touch. I like the seriousness. I like Jimmy's point. He's out there in his ring gear while Brock's not. I do agree though. This is round 3 here, and
as I've even said, I still don't fully ever know why the hell this whole thing started, this feud, but it's been pretty intense and physical. I hope this is the end of it. Whatever happens Saturday, I hope is the end. I'm going to assume it's the rubber match. Cody's going to be there the next night, or Brock probably is not. Cody's documentary just dropped on Peacock. I'd have to think all these would lead towards Cody's going to win and continue his journey and his path, I would assume, but you never know.
You never know. That's why you got to tune in. You never know. Shelbowski says with a super chat, it's like the Orioles saying they have a bunch of starting pitchers. Bunch means no starting pitchers. Go Blue Jays.
Well, I believe we've beat you in every game this year except for one. So we swept you last time we came to Toronto, and we're looking to do it again. So.
You should have had your starting pitchers in for that game you lost.
Our starting pitcher won tonight. Kyle Gibson got the win tonight.
Wow.
But
thanks for the 5 Canadian.
We've got Champa versus Shinsuke. They say they're both going to be in the SummerSlam Battle Royal. They have a match, and Shinsuke gets the win with a little help from grabbing the tights. Jimmy Korderas, is it even cheating anymore to grab the tights? I feel like that's just part of the game.
No, see, that's the thing. It's that roll up finish, the roll up of doom, so to speak, and adding a little. See, you do all these ridiculous. I have to say it at least once every week. You do a twisting, burning 450 hammer Phoenix splash for a 2 count, yet a roll up hooking the tights is enough. And they did a lot of great false finishes in this one as well. But at the same time, I'm a little tired of the roll up. And yes, it was a bit of to show that Nakamura's in a bit of a heel mode, so to speak. I get it, but at the same time, it wasn't working for me, and you can tell because the crowd was not reacting very much to this match.
I was distracted this whole match because there was a giant pet peeve happening.
I know what you're gonna say. Go for it.
Why are both men wearing the same colors?
I have that written down. My goodness, now that you said it.
I understand, and Jimmy can speak to this better than well, actually, maybe not. No, Jimmy. Well, Jimmy wears the same outfit every night. He wore a rough shirt, but he can speak. He can speak to it because he's a third party there.
Yeah, someone's dressed like Jimmy in the match. There's a big problem.
I understand. Talent packs at home. They travel. They might have to pack for 1 or 2 live events, and they pack the nicest gear they have for TV. I get it. You pack your best quality gear, your cleanest gear, whatever. I get it. But you can't tell me that Nakamura or Champa, one of them could have then convened at some point, looked at each other and go, okay, do you have a different set of gear? Why are they both wearing bumblebee colored? It's just a pet peeve. If the storyline is that they're former partners and they're trying to get past their issues, okay, I get it, because that is a reminder you of their former partners. They're not.
No.
Right.
No.
Why are they wearing the same colors?
Yeah, and that's something that I'm sure was talked about back afterwards.
Who let them get to the ring like that?
Exactly. That's the thing. I know you can make a slight. Well, Nakamura was in black and yellow, and there was a little bit of green with Ciampa's black and yellow, but they were both primarily black and yellow.
No, they were black and yellow. I mean, I guess. I mean, yeah, this was very.
This is a visual business. How do we not take that into consideration?
Somebody in the truck was going crazy. I can tell you right now.
Yeah, it's a shame that is kind of, I think, the takeaway everyone had, because it feels like, at least on Twitter, that seemed to be the biggest response from the match. It was unfortunate because they did good stuff, but like I said, I don't think hooking the tights counts as cheating anymore. Has anyone ever been DQ'd for hooking the tights, or like recently in the past?
No, because the ref never
10
sees
years.
No, the refs don't see it. And then back in the day when the ref did catch the tights, they just stopped the count and told him, "Hey, you're hooking the tights." Yeah. It's kind of like holding the rope. You don't DQ them. You just tell them, "Hey, let go of the rope."
Well, and Jimmy, the ref really shouldn't see the tights because the ref should be positioned by the shoulders, right? And the tights are happening opposite.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in any case, we move on and we get Judgment Day promo, which was crazy because it was an hour into the show. Usually they are all throughout the show. We didn't actually see much of him this time around. They kind of cut the typical Judgment Day promo where they all run through their opponents until Raquel comes out, and she actually gets the best of Rhea until Rhea eventually gets that injured leg again. Later, Adam Pearce promises Raquel that she'll get a title shot when she's healthy. Justin, I thought this was brilliant because, one, it's the first time we've seen Rhea backpedal, and two, now I have a reason why this match isn't happening at SummerSlam.
Yeah, and this was a little bit of a trend we saw tonight of matches we thought might be for SummerSlam that are not. But I think it's okay because, look, you don't need to have everything on the one night, so I have no problem extending this out. Quite frankly, if I can be selfish, the next Premium Live event after SummerSlam is here in Pittsburgh. It's Payback on September 2nd. I'm kind of geeked that that might be a match I get to see on the card because I'm a big fan of both ladies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have no problem with this segment and what it did. You know, to portray Raquel as a fighting, albeit injured, but fighting challenger and trying to get the better of Rhea, something that people can't say these days. So I was fine with this.
Jimmy, does Rhea need to get some title defenses in before this match with Raquel happens? Because I think that would be our first title defense, wouldn't it? Or one of at least the first big one, right?
I believe
she defended a Backlash against Zelina in Puerto
Rico.
That's
right. That's right. Okay.
So yeah, but you'd like
that was a while ago, though.
Yeah, you'd like to see the title defended a little more frequently. But then again, going back to Roman Reigns, how often does he defend that title? When she does put it on the line, though, it means something. Mm-hmm. It's making it, hey, let's see her defend that title. It's getting people, hot at her, and that's what you want. You want heat on the heel, right?
She beat Natalya at Night of Champions in Saudi Arabia.
There you go.
Okay.
So I guess that's two. So I guess.
Yeah.
I don't remember if she was on Money in the Bank, but she at least had the two following Mania.
That's true. Yeah.
No, I guess no disrespect to Natalya. I guess I never really considered her a threat. She's great, but she's kind of like a Dolph Ziggler, where she's great, but I'm not gonna count my chickens.
And just to back up a little bit to the whole Judgment Day promo thing, the little things that I talk about that matter is everybody took their turn on the mic. They started off with Rhea, then it went to Damian Priest, then it went to Finn Balor, the leader. The last person to talk was the guy with the nuclear heat, Dominic Mysterio. It was a great strategy to lay it out that way. Let's put it that way. I thought it was very smart business.
Jack, can I cheap plug real quick?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Damian Priest and I did our interview conversation. We released it. Clips on my social. The full thing is available. The link is on my Twitter or my X, whatever. Check it out. But as part of the Judgment Day, we talk about pressures of having the Money in the Bank. I basically said look, most people that have Money in the Bank, they end up becoming champions sooner or later. Are you feeling that pressure right now? He talks about that. Also talks about Judgment Day. I talked to him about the bond. I know they travel together. I asked him to give me some quirks, some traveling Judgment Day quirks. He talks about who's terrible, who's scary at driving, who's unpredictable as the DJ with the music in the car. Talks about the whole vibe. So again, go to my socials at Justin LaBar. If you're a Damian Priest or Judgment Day fan, I think you'll enjoy it. And then I got Rhea Ripley coming up here in a few weeks. So.
Hey, another big score for Justin. But yeah, I got to check out that Damian Priest interview. And I want everyone in the chat to make sure to check out the interview. But before you do, put in the chat who you think is the most scary when they're picking the music on the road. I'm curious what you guys think, because I keep thinking, well, it's obviously this person. Wait, no, could be this. Well, what if it's this person?
he gives explanation. It's funny. And then also he reminisces about the moment. And it's not even a match. It's a skit. It's a vignette. When he knew that he wanted to be a pro wrestler, and then that catapulted in, well, does that wrestler and you have a rapport today? And they have a really cool bond, and he even made some jokes about how that wrestler razzes on him, and it's pretty cool. So,
very, awesome. Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Definitely check that out. I think I'm gonna go check that out probably tomorrow morning, because I'm a huge Damian Priest fan, and it sounds like you got some of my favorite kind of nuggets, like the road stories and stuff like that, are the most fun to me to hear. So
I always try to aim for questions that somebody else hasn't asked them before.
Right. Yeah, no, that's those are always the most fun. And yeah,
not to interrupt, but some of the most fun stories that you talked about the car, because you usually have the same, you have your travel crew.
Yeah.
And those are some of the funniest things happen in the car. A lot of times what happens in the car stays in the car, but at the same time, it's fun letting the cat out of the bag every once in a while.
There was a moment where he said in his answer, I probably can't tell you this, and I'm not going to. And then I said, well, that'll be great for the book in 20 years when you guys are all retired.
There you go.
Well, you know how the wrestling books are. He'll probably release it in next month, and then he'll release 6 of them. Because I feel like wrestlers now, they release books like when they're halfway done with their career. I mean, it's smart. They get to release more than one book. But like Jericho has like 7 books about his career at this point. I mean, again, it's smart. He sold 7 books as opposed to 1. But
once Jimmy goes in the Hall of Fame, he'll have a second book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, see you, Jimmy, you too. You're already releasing books before you're done. How dare you?
Well,
Jimmy's a tremendous read. I always say it. It's on my shelf for free. Read Jimmy's if you have not read Jimmy's. But maybe Jimmy has a second book of his life after WWE, podcasting, Hall of Fame, whatever else.
Sorry, my life truly started when I met Jack Farmer. That's how it'll start.
The string between 2 cans.
The string between 2 cans.
And that is not a sexual euphemism.
Yes.
It is now.
It is now.
Somebody will make it that way anyway.
Yeah. I will never. Yeah, that line's done for you, Jimmy. Sorry. That one's coming out of the Hall of Fame speech.
No, I'm leaving it in. I don't care. Cut me off.
They just cut to a shot of Aldra, and she's just doing this in the front row.
Exactly. I can't believe he said it. Oh my God.
Oh my God. That's this. I feel like this podcast goes more and more off the rails each and every week.
That's okay.
Let's talk about a very surprisingly good segment. 2 segments I thought of this show was the Shayna Baszler, Ronda Rousey video packages and talking about their history. Justin, this was, I mean, the footage they used, the emotional aspect of it. I feel like both of these 2 could have used this kind of thing a long time ago.
Agreed. You're right. There's so much archival photos, videos, real stories from the Ultimate Fighter, Shayna's godmother to Ronda. I mean, this did way more than anything they could have booked in front of the live crowd tonight for the go home show. These, and WWE does this well. We know this. Their editing bays are where magic happens, and this set the stage perfectly. I'm going. So we know that Rhea's it appears not having a match at SummerSlam, and then there's another women's feud that we'll get to in a second. I'm fine with this match. No title involved. It's just a pure grudge match. I am totally fine with this making the final cut of what we're putting on SummerSlam because of the way they have produced the hype here with these stories. Ronda has not been this interesting to me, and I don't remember how long, and Shayna's never been this interesting. This is great. So I'm genuinely looking forward to now seeing the match. It's under MMA rules, so what does that exactly mean? I don't know, but in terms of, I'm excited. Good job.
They so many cool things too. Like the near the end, Shayna Baszler clearly shed a tear at some point, but they didn't fix the makeup, and you could kind of see just the line of where it came down at one point. It was just incredible. And Jimmy, I think this is the first real great use of the collaboration or the joint ownership, or however you'd say it, of UFC and WWE having all that footage of them.
Absolutely. It added so much to the story. And that's part of what's getting everybody now invested in this story, is seeing that footage and seeing that background and them being best friends for so long, and it culminating to this match with MMA rules. What I'd like to see in this match is, no offense to my good brothers and sisters in stripes, is because it is MMA rules, maybe bring in as a special guest referee a Big John McCarthy or a Herb Dean to officiate this match. You know what I mean? And make it look like as much a legit fight as possible, because it felt like Ronda was different in these videos, if you know what I mean. She sounded like she was invested. She sounded like she cared, for lack of a better term. And, it drew me in as well.
And even stuff like Shayna Baszler saying, like, I was her sparring partner. I had to be the one she beat up every single day. And like, geez, that's a tough life to live. And like, it makes you understand just where they come from. So I thought these were great. Everything's awesome about these. I thought, in a little vacuum outside of this, something that's a little pet peeve of mine. And this is just stupid. I get why we say MMA in pro wrestling. I get what we're doing, but I also feel like, isn't pro wrestling supposed to be MMA? I mean, there's different styles of martial arts happening within pro wrestling. It just seems weird to me that we act like, should we be acting like they're the same thing? If you catch my drift, like
combat sport, yes, but obviously boxing has its elements and stuff like that. So I guess, I get your point, but at the same time, pro wrestling's always kind of been in its own world.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I get what we're saying and I get what we're trying to convey to the audience. But I feel like within the ring, it's supposed to be the same. I don't know. Anyways, it's a little pet peeve of mine that I've learned to live with. Becky Lynch and Trish Stratus have a final showdown. Becky wants her match. Trish says, sure, you'll get one eventually, which I thought was great. Adam Pearce says, yep, it's going to be tonight. So they get Becky gets the jump on Trish. Zoe jumps Becky, and then it becomes a 2-on-1 DQ. Post-match, Adam Pearce says in 2 weeks, it's Trish versus Becky in Winnipeg. Justin, I want to say that I think the delivery of Trish Stratus is incredible. When she says, if anyone else said her lines, it would fall flat. But I think just the way she talks is great. But also, why in 2 weeks when we've got SummerSlam this weekend?
Well, again, if they feel that it's going to be too crowded, if it's not going to get the time that it needs, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with them saving big promoted matches for Raw. I'm a little curious that it's going to be in Winnipeg. It's Canada. Like, are they expecting Trish to be booed?
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And Jimmy, what do you think about that as a Canadian? Do you think they're trying to get the crowd to react a certain way for this match? Or do you think they're just being nice to Trish and saying, look, this is your last one on the contract. You don't have to go too far.
I wish I knew what the reasoning was for putting this match in Winnipeg, because it's almost guaranteed. I don't want to assume too much here, but it's almost guaranteed that Trish will get cheered.
Yeah.
In Winnipeg, being a Canadian, because they take to their own, regardless, heel, babyface, whatever the case may be. Canadians get cheered in Canada. So I find that very interesting. And maybe this is something to play. There's got to be a reason behind it. And I hate to be that, let's wait and see what happens. But it is an interesting choice of location. And if you think about it, the week after that, it's here in Toronto. No.
Oh, really?
No. Toronto's got SmackDown. I want to say it's in Quebec City the week after that, which is Canada as well. So
seems like they've been up in Canada a lot this year.
Well, I think it's like a 2-week run through. So
yeah. I mean, they're good crowds in Canada, so it makes sense. It's just, it felt like there's a while where they were never in Canada, and now it feels like of course, I guess there were issues around the world making it hard to travel. So maybe that's why I feel like they didn't used to go there very often.
Right.
But yeah, I am a massive fan of the way Trish Stratus has done this. Just we talked about before, how are people going to boo her? Like I said, just the way she says things. I don't know. It's just, it's so jerky the way she talks, but not like sounding like she's not trying to be, but totally like so condescending. The way she talks, it's fantastic. I don't know. I don't know what to take away from it, but Trish, there's a reason you're the GOAT. We get to the end of the show here, which feels very go home show. Damian Priest and Dom Mysterio against Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn. The main story beat to start is that Finn gets chased off, only to come back and attack Seth Rollins. Damian Priest basically has the match won, but starts to get the eye for that Money in the Bank briefcase. Finn reluctantly hands it to him, but it's too late as Rollins is back up, and Rollins and Zayn get the upper hand and get the win. Justin, this is the first time Damian Priest kind of lied. He said he was going to let Finn get the first shot, but he clearly tried to take the first shot.
And that's what you want. It put the little, and look, quite frankly, it put me now in the mindset of this Saturday. What if Finn beats Seth? Priest cashes in then. It put that little bit of, Priest is starting to get a little trigger happy with that Money in the Bank. So this was what it needed to be. These combination of characters had a main event a week or two ago. It kind of got a little crazy and off the rails in some spots of it, but tonight was pretty crisp, pretty tight. Exactly what you want for the go home, but exactly what you want. Priest is lurking with that briefcase, and that is a very relevant factor come Saturday.
Shout out to the lurkers. Jimmy, any takeaways on this one? Like I said, I think the big story here is Damian Priest said he was not going to cash in, tried to, but Finn reluctantly did try to help him.
Right. And that's part of the intrigue here going on, especially, there is that little bit of tension between Damian Priest and Finn Balor going on for the last couple of weeks of revolving around this Money in the Bank briefcase. So, as Justin would say, to try and imagine how they get through this at SummerSlam, maybe Priest ends up costing Balor the match via DQ. Balor gets in his face, and he, let's say, for example, the finish is he ends up waffling Seth with the briefcase. And the referee manages to catch it, DQs him. Seth gets upset about it, so he waffles Finn gets upset with him, so he waffles Finn with the briefcase, and he goes to cash it in or something like that, and Finn breaks it up. And I don't know. There's so many different directions you can go. That's what's great about this. There's so many different stories you can tell here, and it's got everybody going, I wonder what's going to happen next. At least it's got me going, what's going to happen next, and I want to tune in to find out.
The Money in the Bank briefcase, when it first was created, I was like, this sounds like the dumbest thing ever. What a stupid idea. And I was absolutely incorrect about it. It makes, whenever you have someone with the Money in the Bank briefcase, it makes everything so exciting, because literally at any moment you could see a title change, and they've done such a good job with it. And now what they're doing with this one, where it is causing inner faction turmoil, as well as could Damian Priest get the win, and the fact that Damian Priest would be a first-time world champion if he won it. And this is just a perfect concoction of what to do with the Money in the Bank briefcase, as opposed to some of the ones they've done in the past recently. Like, sorry, Otis, when you won it, I don't think a lot of people were this invested in the Money in the Bank briefcase. But
Damian Sandow was one who showed up short, right?
Yeah.
It favors to have a heel, right?
Right.
It's a license to steal. When Rob Van Dam had it, he at least did the right way. He picked his shot, but he picked his shot and put it in the home field favor of John Cena. You're going to do this in ECW territory. It's harder to do with a baby face, but
Right.
it is a great gimmick. I mean, the first Money in the Bank match I ever saw was I was in Detroit, Ford Field Mania 23 and 2007, and my favorite at the time, Mr. Kennedy, won it. I mean, it was such a thrilling thing. It's such a thrilling gimmick, and unfortunately, he didn't get to cash it in. He got a misdiagnosis of an injury, and I could go on and spit fire on that whole situation. But it's an exciting match to watch. It really is. It's one of the great. We talk about Royal Rumble and some of the things that WWE's come up with over the last 35 years. Money in the Bank's probably the most recent original thrilling gimmick they come up with.
Oh, for sure. Dylan, by the way, I wanted to give a quick shout. It says John Cena showed up short. Dylan, all due respect, John Cena's shorts were never short. So they were always long. But in any case, this was the episode. This was the episode of Raw Go Home show. We got SummerSlam this weekend. Before we sign off, of course, everyone let us know where you're at. Everyone let me know in the chat what you thought of the show. Jimmy, where can the world find you, and what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts on the show. I thought it was interesting. It added to some stories going into SummerSlam and made me more interested in a few of them, as we talked about tonight. And in that regard, I thought it was good. We got some good matches in ring work. We got some good promo segments. It was a good show. It wasn't blow away by any means, but at the same time, I think it achieved its goal in making you interested in a few matches that may have lacked a little bit of interest so far. Let's put it that way. And as far as where you can find me, obviously here on Monday nights with Triple J talking post Raw. On Wednesdays, it's myself, Justin, and Issa usually talking post AEW Dynamite. And every once in a while, maybe we do a PLE one, like maybe who knows? We don't know yet, but possibly this Saturday it could be another one. And you can catch me on all my social media platforms doing my ref and rants every Monday through Friday. And like I say, my critiques are not there to tear down, but to help maybe tighten some screws and make things make sense, so to speak.
Yeah. And I think I'm actually going to be on, I have to double check my calendar. I think I'm going to be on AEW this week.
Yeah, because Issa's in Detroit for SummerSlam.
Right.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. So I will be on AEW this week. So I'll be
Triple J on Wednesday. Wait, Jack, are you available Saturday?
I am available Saturday.
Maybe it's Triple J. Maybe it's a triple threat of Triple J this week.
Triple J all week long.
We're twisting the boss's arm. We're putting it out there.
See, we're gonna have to start. We're gonna have to, karaoke it one night. Guess who's back? Back again. Yeah. Triple J.
Oh well, we got to do a karaoke. Justin, tell the world where they can find you. What you thought of the show and what your go-to karaoke song is. Show was okay. It's a go home show, so you have constraints. You're not gonna go crazy because you have to stay within the constraints for the payoff. But I thought that they did advance some story. Like again, the Shayna Ronda, they did some things tonight where it's like, all right, I'm a little more amped up for this match than I was prior, so that's cool. Yeah. At Justin LaBar across the socials. Back Wednesday for that. Friday morning's Busted Open Radio on Sirius XM. I maybe Saturday night with you guys. Who knows? And go to karaoke song. Ooh. The last one I did, I had a female companion in the singing with me, and we did Love Shack. So I don't know. That's a good one.
Well, I did the male part. She did the female. So I don't know. We'll
the whole shack shimmy.
The whole shack shimmy.
Little old place where.
What's your go-to karaoke song, Jimmy?
My go-to karaoke song. Wow.
You brought up karaoke. We gotta.
I know, man. You know what? Believe it or not, I don't have a go-to one, but I do like. Believe it or not, I do like some Barry White.
Really?
Yeah. There's a Canadian artist who recently passed away, Gordon Lightfoot.
Yes.
Oh, he's got some great songs for karaoke.
You got Baby Got Back, Dream Realm Studios. And Ricky, yes, I believe I'm on the Friday. I got to check my calendar. I'm no good without my calendar, but I'm 90% sure, especially now that I know that Issa's in Detroit, that I'll be on Friday as well. But yeah, that's it for me.
Jack doing Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and maybe Saturday.
Jeez, it's like a full-time job around here. Yeah, we thank you to everyone in the chat. Dream Realm Studios, Leonard Jones, Ricky Zaldivar, Mad Dog saying that you're my boy, Justin. So shout out to you. Huffman, we got
my boy Blue.
Bernie, we got Dylan, Lego Brick, Danny, we got Bernie, DC, Baby Ice, and everyone else. Thanks so much for being in the chat. You can find me at Real Jack Farmer across all social media. I just told you I'm going to be on Wrestling Inc. all week. So just stay tuned to at Wrestling Inc. And if you want to know my go-to karaoke song, it's